I think the market is kind of nascent. It is not something that most people know about at this point. The market is somewhat fragmented. Your social networks, primarily Twitter. I think Twitter is the big 800-pound gorilla in this space. Twitter is really trying to make a play for TV, not just in India, worldwide. Right? In fact, some of the innovations Twitter has come up with is that you can tweet a hashtag and it will change your channel on your TV. Like they have partnered with Comcast networks to do that. Like it's called live tweet or something like that, and you can actually tweet. And Twitter will understand it. It will convey that information to Comcast. They will change the channel for you, right? So they are trying to build Twitter as a means to do entire second screen. So Twitter is the big gorilla, and they are kind of doing their own thing. I think they are far too big for us to really view them as something that's, an integral part of the ecosystem. But they have the power to really, take the game away. One of the things I keep telling the producers of content and essentially the license owners, the broadcasters, is they own the emotional connect with the audience. Right? They have produced a show, people like the characters, people tune in on a daily basis or a weekly basis to really be part of that story. And I really tell them, why are you letting Twitter own the conversation? Right? You own the emotional experience, why are you letting Twitter own the conversation? But that's kind of where people go to. And what we are doing ourselves is we are subsuming Twitter. Like your tweet feed will be brought into our app, and you can use Twitter, you can tweet, you can share it on Facebook. But the social networks, Facebook too, are trying to do some stuff, and that's part of the market. The other part of the market, I feel, is startups within India. They are primarily coming up with business to consumer type of things, right? So they're coming up with apps that you can go and download, and they want to provide value to the end user. So there are a few in the market, and essentially there is very little differentiation between them. And we feel a challenge out there is, if you think about TV viewing, it's a lean back experience, right? You sit on your couch or you sit on your sofa and you have a remote control and maybe you have chips or you have some drink or something like that, and you're watching TV to unwind from the day. Right? You're watching maybe with your family or watching alone, whatever it is. It's a lean back experience. And now what we are trying to do is to say, hey, you need to lean forward. You need to take out your phone and you need to engage. And believe me, getting a user to do that is not easy. And we feel unless the content is really compelling, it's something that appeals to the user, that's not going to happen. And so some of these startups that we have also been following, we don't really see that happening. Right? We feel there's a lot of promotion that needs to happen. We feel the content really needs to come to a level of compelling. And we feel for that really to get some traction, we need traction with a lot of users. Right? Once a lot of users are getting onto the platform, then advertisers start getting onto the platform, then broadcasters start getting. I feel that's probably the cycle. And the challenge is, how do we provide compelling content? A third part of this is there are established players internationally largely, right, who are also trying to make an entry out here. They might be people who provide synchronization technology. So I know Airtel had run an ad on the second screen where during the ad you were supposed to pull out your phone and you were supposed to tap Shazam and rich content would come up. But Shazam is a big player, right? They are US and UK and they have a large installed base. But there are others, right? So there are other players, Cisco and Ericsson and all of them, who also have platforms and they're trying to sell this technology. And some of them are trying to sell to advertisers. Right? So let me just talk about the players, then I'll talk about the audience that the players are trying to target. So there are startups, there are multinational players who with multiple aspects to their business who are trying to get in there. And then there are the social networks. That's kind of the footprint as we see it. The other part of the footprint is, whom do you address? Right? Do you go straight to the viewer, which a lot of the startups are doing? Do you go to the broadcaster, or do you you already have the viewers like Twitter has. Right? So do you go to advertisers, do you go to broadcasters, and do you go to viewers? So what the example I gave of the Airtel ad is, people have you've sold the technology to an advertiser. And the challenge is you're watching TV, suddenly one ad comes, and within 30 seconds, you're expected to pull out your smartphone, you're supposed to click it, and you're supposed to engage. Right? I feel that's challenging. We feel primarily that if the app is on, your phone is in your hand because of compelling content that was being delivered by the show, producer or broadcaster. The app is on, then the ad has a lot more chance of being engaging, as opposed to you are going to actually pull out your phone and engage with an ad for a 30-second slot. Right? We don't think that is really the way to go. Right? So some of the other startups in the space actually had focused on advertisers. And as we understand it, they have retooled themselves. They are now producing apps that end consumers will be looking at. Right? So we feel that experiment is a little not successful, going directly to advertisers. However, the sweet spot is if we have compelling content. We have an app that would have been on when the ad comes on, and now the ad is engaging. Right? That I feel creates this dynamic of getting viewers to engage with the advertiser, the people who pay the money and the people who are interested in the product. The way to do that is we really feel partnering with broadcasters or partnering with people who have the content. And that's how we can make the content compelling. Right? So I gave an example of a quiz show. Right? If I knew what the questions of the quiz were and I could send them to you when the show was actually going on, that's going to be a lot more compelling for you to participate and maybe play with your family or play with your Facebook friends or something than you're just getting a social feed. So that is one example. Let's take a reality show where they have 24 hours of footage and they have to compress it to a 1 hour TV show, actually 45 minutes of TV show. And, in that process, if they can package some of that other stuff and say, this character is fighting with this character here, let me show you an outtake of what was happening while, we were filming it or something. That will engage people and they are likely to share this and make that thing viral or something, right? Or if your opinion is being sought and is somehow going to impact or at least be presented on TV in some fashion, right? You took part in an opinion poll and somehow that made its way out there, or you actually tweeted something and that's going to make its way out there or something. Those are the things that are going to engage people and want them to contribute. And we feel there is a gamification that's needed out there, but unless we have compelling content, it's difficult to get a lean back experience into a lean forward experience. But once we get that, and our strategy is to rope in the broadcasters and producers, but once we get that, it becomes a fertile ground for advertisers, right? So now advertisers really find it that when the ad comes up here, it's going to come up on the second screen also. They are talking about something and which is creating an emotional impact on TV, but out here you can actually run a virtual test drive, or you can get a coupon, or you can do a variety of things that they can, maybe even just engage with them on Facebook, whatever their strategy is. And we feel that that's kind of the way to look at it. That's how we are going. But to answer your question, market is nascent. It's kind of fragmented. People going after different players. It's early days in this, and we feel there are 2 or 3 takeaways. We feel we have to be conservative for the long term. We don't have a killer app nowhere in the industry. When internationally, a killer app for second screen where people just kind of flock to it, except for maybe Olympics or sports. And we have to iterate. We have to experiment. We have to do stuff. And for that, we feel having a nimble platform where we can quickly iterate is a necessity. And that's kind of where we are focused. We said, let's not come up with one app. Let's come up with a factory that can generate multiple apps and be nimble and pull in different types of content. And we don't have all the great ideas. We want to partner with the broadcasters and their creative teams to do that. And that's kind of where we are gone. And then we feel that will create the ecosystem within which broadcasters can make some money, advertisers can make some money, or other advertisers can get some momentum. and viewers really engage and participate in that. So I feel the challenges are kind of the fragmentation and the nascentness of this thing, right? It's early days. For us, we have to do a lot of convincing to the broadcasters or to the producers of content. Right? It is not something they can say, we get it. They have, personally, I feel, the broadcast industry is not necessarily an experimenter in terms of they like to know where the revenue is going to come from, as opposed to when a YouTube got launched or a Twitter got launched or Facebook got launched. People were just saying, let's try something, and along the way we'll figure out. And now we know that there's a lot of money to it. It's not just the big names, but even Tumblr and all of them. I mean, they eventually all became big. But people are trying to do stuff and say, let's see what happens. Right? From a broadcaster's perspective, from the day one, they're trying to say, can I monetize this? And I feel we need to iterate a few times before we can figure out where really the money is. Right? And we are willing to partner with them. We go and say, we'll make our platform available to you, maybe at negligible licensing. Let's just learn together. Let's run a few things. You just have to bring your content team. We'll bring the technology. Let's put things together and run with it. And see what is it that engages the Indian consumer. Right? And I feel it's a fairly complex matrix if you look at it. I think we have to look at demographic and we have to look at genre. And then what we'll find is different things are engaging different demographics for different genres. Right? So news might be interesting for a urban audience, potentially in English, maybe only for shows where there are debates or something going on. Whereas certain other things, reality shows will affect some other people. Sports, I feel, is a big one. Serials and all, I feel it's iffy, right? I mean, I don't know if there is a real market for serials, but the number of Facebook posts you get on serials is also quite high, right? And I feel what we should really do is to say, let's try some stuff, let's put together good experiences that allow us to learn with different levels of synchronization, different levels of interactivity. Let's see what people really like. And so that's one challenge, like the ability of broadcasters to say, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to iterate a few times and I'm going to learn, and then I will have a platform that really drives me. The other thing is I feel organizational. If I again go to broadcasters, the organizational aspect is they are divided into the content side of the business and the digital side of the business. Right? And I guess their indicators, the performance indicators on which they are measured are individually different. And I feel what we are trying to do is combine the two. Right? We are saying, while you're watching TV, I'm going to give you a second screen experience, and we think this drives up the number of viewers to your TV. We think this drives up the stickiness of your content, because even when there are ads, people will want to engage. We think this drives up the value of your content as a whole, because there will be some viral increase and more people will come. Now the way to measure it is really saying, with second screen or without second screen, did my TRP numbers change? Right? Now that is real value to the broadcaster, but the way they are organized and the way they are thinking about it necessarily I won't say necessarily, but predominantly is kind of like these disjointed things, right? Second screen becomes digital and it has its own metrics about number of viewers and whether we can get a subscription or we can get some ad revenue directly from there. And I feel that organizational challenge is part of the challenge. And how do we tie it all together? And I would say finally within that space, until we get some successes and killer apps, advertisers are going to be slower to take on this. And I feel it's kind of this vicious cycle that we hope to break through over the next 6 months and start getting some apps out there and getting real numbers and seeing whether there is resistance to this in India or there is not. I feel the jury is still out there.
Thank you, Anand. Thanks for your time and wish you good luck for your night.
Thanks a lot.